Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show on AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you today. We are streaming on am950radio.com, but I want you to meet the morning stars on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe there. Like and subscribe and pass the show along. Go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page. That's the only page where I can accept friends, everybody. And I want you to be my friend on Facebook. Please, 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 please be my friend there. And then, of course, on X, I am on the at Santita J and at Santita J Show. I also shared with, I think his name is Reverend Jesse Jackson. I know this guy. I shared on his page too. But, we're spreading it out everywhere that we can. And we need you to do that too. Because we're trying to give you some information. Everybody, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. And let me put my phone on mute. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. I need you to like the show. Help us with the algorithm now. Like the show. Like the show. We got a lot to talk about. We've had two major hurricanes, game-changing, quite frankly, in terms of their intensity and frequency. Should I say that they came together so quickly? Hurricane Helene, that was not even 2 weeks ago. And now we had Milton. And so, okay, what happened? Well, it turns out Milton was not as bad as we thought, but it did cover the state. And it did deliver quite a wallop because they got lots and lots of tornadoes. So it didn't quite happen the way we thought it was going to happen, but it was no less devastating. Right. But now the question is, how do people get the assistance they need? And so we want to hear from you, everybody. Thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up. People are being called conspiracy theorists, and they're giving you disinformation, misinformation. And I just had to bring this up because I heard Secretary Mayorkas say this myself. He said that FEMA has no more disaster funds. He said that. But the IG report said the agency is sitting on funds. Well, he said that. He did say that. So what did he mean? Because we're cutting checks left and right for Ukraine, Israel, and every place else. If we want to wage war, we have no problems underwriting the military-industrial complex. But people have to make it on their own. And it's your money. And you ought to be real warm about that. The way our disaster system is set up in the United States, FEMA fills in some gaps. And you need to have insurance. But then you got to argue with insurance. Now, if you've been flooded out, where are your papers? How is it that you have to bargain with the people who are supposed to assure you that you have been insured? How does that work? So let's talk about this. And if you are poor, you are just out of luck. Let's just keep it real. If you're working class, if you're middle class, if you make $100,000 a year, you're out of luck. Because almost every American is living paycheck to paycheck, not even payday to Monday. My friend Lynn Richardson wrote a fantastic book by that name. And that's how people are living. So can you imagine an interruption to your regularly scheduled programming? Well, people are struggling. And as I listen to different shows, talk radio this morning and television shows where people can call in, I'm hearing a lot of anger. I'm hearing a lot of confusion, and I'm hearing people tell the host, Hilton Kelly, Minister Curtis Gatewood, don't call me a conspiracy theorist. I know what I'm experiencing. So we've got you, Minister Curtis Gatewood, Stop Killing Us, brilliant program out of North Carolina. But of course, you've been organizing and you've been trying to bring people together with infrastructure that has basically collapsed throughout the state and in Georgia and in Florida. Because a lot of people don't have access to electricity, drinkable water, bathable water, clean water. And when water sits and it is full of bacteria, it becomes a health hazard to you. So if you have a wound, you cannot get in dirty water. It could impair your health, if not kill you. See, it's after the storm that you have a lot of the challenges that can take you under, not just financially, but in terms of your health. So we have to talk about that today. So glad that you joined this game, Minister Gatewood. And of course, we have one of the world's leading environmentalists. Indeed, he's won the equivalent of the Nobel for environmentalists, the Goldman Prize, Hilton Kelly. And we're so excited that he is with us. He's also had a brilliant career in acting.
Oh
But
yeah.
one of the things that we do appreciate, because what we do appreciate about you is that you you kind of move that over. You said, let me apply these gifts over here. You went back home. You went back to Texas. You went to Port Arthur, Texas. You said there's a need here. People need advocacy. You did that too, Minister Gatewood. You said
Likewise.
people need advocacy. They need advocates. They need people on the ground, people who can argue their case for them. And so, Hilton Kelly, what are you seeing right now? Because we are in hurricane season, and it seems uh, the corporate media were engaging in disaster porn. That's how they put it. I mean, they had their top reporters just waiting to, I don't know, I saw like Anderson Cooper, who I like a lot, banged up against the building. I said, no, honey, you haven't done this about 20 years. And now you are a father. What are you doing? You got two little kids. You need to go home.
Lord of mercy.
Lord have mercy. Andre, how you doing this morning? Shalom to you, Robert. Sending you so much love. And Roni, hey, morning coffee. And Carol Soskin, my sister from another mister out there in the hills of Beverly. What are you seeing? Because Mayorkas said it. He said FEMA has no more disaster funds. And now the IG said, well, the agency is sitting on billions. What is the deal? And how can people have access to this money? Because the government depends upon you to get yourself out of the hole, and maybe charity from somebody else. But they're not guaranteeing you. They don't underwrite you the way they're underwriting Boeing, who are woefully underperforming, endangering people's lives, by the way. For example, Hilton Kelly.
Well, I tell you, it's nostalgic for me. As you know, back in, 2017, we went through Hurricane Harvey.
Yes.
And Hurricane Harvey devastated the city of Port Arthur, so much so to the point to where many of our residents never returned back. We are still fixing some communities back to some normalcy after Hurricane Harvey. And since then, we've been threatened by Hurricane Laura that hit Lake Charles, Louisiana, and Hurricane Helen just went right by us. So it just skirted a couple of miles out in the Gulf and went straight on up in a different direction. But what this reminds me of when we went through what we went through with Hurricane Harvey was the same thing. FEMA hitting the ground very late in the game. Water had been standing for at least about a month. People were wondering, were they ever going to get any assistance at all? My own home was devastated by water inundation. We had about 4 feet of water inside our home, and the walls started buckling away from the foundation. So it's the same old, same old. What I see, people in North Carolina going through right now, I know our federal government claim they're doing the best that they can, but now we're starting to hear not how they're going to assist the people, but how people can get loans to pull themselves up out of this situation. But they're going to sink further into debt trying to do that. Now, whether FEMA is going to kick in once the cameras go off and kick in and actually give them the money they need that's designed to assist citizens during a natural disaster is yet to be seen. Because sometimes that money comes up too little, too late. And that's the same thing that happened here in Southeast Texas, in Houston, Texas, in Beaumont and Port Arthur as well. So they have to really stay on their P's and Q's and stay after FEMA to do what it was designed to do. And they may have to organize around this issue, even though it may be a little early in the game, but it's still important to have all your facts together, have all your paperwork together for it's a deed to your home, information about what you own. And also it's good to have some cash on hand if you can obtain that. Also credit cards. If you have credit cards, be prepared to use them. Now, it may be a while in some areas like what just happened in Florida. It may be a while before they have lights again. So people need to be prepared. They need to be prepared for emergency living situations, almost like you're in a camping situation where you have a solar radio. You have blankets to keep warm with, or outdoor sleeping bags, or whatever you may need to keep warm, because the elements kill more people than anything during these times, and they have to protect themselves, their body, and their children.
But where do you find these supplies? Most people don't have camping gear, if you will. I mean, and if you've been inundated with water, surely you can't use any of that stuff because it's on the floor, or even, I've seen people who I've been reading stories about some people whose the first floor, the second floor, the third floor inundated with water. I mean, so everything's been destroyed. I mean, there's nothing that a lot of people have lost everything.
Well, there are
Everything.
stores where you can go, like where people go to for hunting gear and whatnot. That ordinarily spend a lot of time in the wood when they're doing deer season.
Mhm.
You can find them at most hardware stores. Walmart has a lot of equipment that you can use for camping. Which in this situation, in many cases, people are going to be camping in their homes because they don't have all the amenities. They don't have running water. They don't have electricity. So therefore, they're going to have to rough it for a while and learn to survive until help can get to them. Like in North Carolina, for instance, I mean, there's a lot of devastation there, and Florida now has some of the same issues. But we have to learn to speak truth to power. We have to learn to talk with our legislators on the state level. You have to get with your state representative and also call your congressman. If FEMA is not doing what they were put in place to do, which is help during emergency situations with funding, monetary support, and with other amenities. Also, what about the Red Cross? Let's get the Red Cross in here. Let's find out exactly what's needed and what they can do to also assist. But FEMA is the big dog on campus right now, and they should be able to get people money expeditiously without any type of long, drawn out application process.
Well, hold on. I mean, just to go back a bit, because I want to bring you into this, Minister Gatewood. What is FEMA's? What was it designed to do, and what is their function?
Right. Well, first of all, I want to thank you again, Sister Santita, and I'm also honored to be on with your special guest today. I want to speak to the church because, see, that's a resource that we often underestimate in its power. Yet we have these disasters all around us. We have churches in every community. FEMA oftentimes will fail us because, of course, they're part of a systemic part of racism, white supremacy, so-called the savagery of white supremacy. And when I say savagery, I mean the violence that comes with the notion that there's white supremacy, and whether that violence be through the environment, whether that violence be through the aftermath of a storm or health or actual domestic terrorism. So, but I do want to say to the church, we have to stop playing church. You see, the problem is, if we look at our history, almost everything that really happened good for us, even though people may not think that faith is important in this generation, the Black church or the church in general was behind it, whether it was building Black Wall Streets, whether it was building colleges, HBCUs that we have not seen any built recently. The church has fallen out of the conversation, which is in of itself is a catastrophe, because there's spirituality and faith connected to all of this. And we have to understand that we can't just have church on Sunday and act like only God is there when it's time to lift an offering, but we have nothing to offer when it's time, when we see these types of humanitarian disasters taking place, and we're all a common thread of humanity. Therefore, as we unfortunately have to rely on FEMA and some of these other entities, because of course we have put our money in the pot, and we should be demanding everything that we can from these institutions that will, of course, have taken our money. But at the same time, this is the time for faith. And as we talked about, Sister Santita, faith means work. Faith without work, we know, is dead. There's a scripture which comes to mind out of Isaiah, and it speaks to the legislators too. It said, "Woe unto those who make unjust laws, to those who issue oppressive decrees that deprive the poor of their rights and withhold justice from the oppressed of my people, making widows their prey and robbing the fatherless." We're seeing people being robbed of their spirit, of their resources, and we know disasters are coming. This is nothing new, but we're never prepared. There's never any preparation for people to be able to move out who don't have transportation. A lot of times poor people cannot move. They're left into the eye of the storm. Oftentimes they don't have the resources to move. Yet we keep going. We see this ugly movie over and over again. And FEMA is usually late. The church is nowhere to be found. All the people who've been collecting money and offering and taxes and all these other things are leaving the poor behind. So my problem is we need to bring all entities together into this, not in any form of the imagination, leaving out the responsibilities of the church, who claim to speak for God, who claim to speak for Jesus, who's about lifting up those who are oppressed, those who are poor. So I'm very appalled oftentimes that we do not have the church involved to the extent they should be. And I do not mind speaking to that because I have scripture to back it up, since they seem to like scripture.
Well, no, you do have scripture to back it up. They do too. They just don't use it. I mean, and it's not all churches. It's not
Right.
But
But too many have selective scriptural amnesia. They only know scriptures that benefit them in their pocketbooks or their wallets. I don't see how millionaire ministers can be around at these times when they're not actually pumping money into these communities, making sure people have ways out of the face of these storms, advocating on behalf of these people who often need not only legal assistance, but they need spiritual assistance. They need financial assistance. And so oftentimes these people who are going to school for years and years to study theology, they miss the most important part. And I'll say it again. If you're not going to read the whole Bible, read the red. That's where Jesus is talking. He's saying how important the poor is to his ministry. He's saying how the oppressed need their money back, and they need the help of those who claim to be his followers. So this is a time for ministry. It's a dark time, but this is when the stars come out. You know, Dr. King put it like this: the ultimate measure of a man is not where he stands in the time of challenging convenience, but where he stands in the time of challenge and controversy. We're at the time of challenge. And oftentimes challenge is controversial because when you advocate for the poor in this crazy, strange land, it's controversial.
Well, you know, in the book of Isaiah, indeed, Jesus challenged government.
Absolutely.
The government is supposed to be accountable to you. Now, they can continue to call us conspiracy theorists all they want to. I'm just listening to the people, Minister Gatewood and Hilton Kelly. The people were saying, when I met you 7 or 8 years ago, Hilton Kelly, and they have been saying before, they continue to say, where are you?
Right.
And now Mayorkas, out of his own mouth, said, look, we are expecting another hurricane hitting. This was October 2nd. We do not have the funds. I quote him. FEMA does not have the funds to make it through the season and what is imminent. That's not a conspiracy, everybody.
Absolutely.
And the way the system itself is structured. I was listening to a woman who has a book, Disasterology. I'm going to order it after this is over. Miss Montana. She said, look, the system is structured in this way, and I've seen it. Right. You're on your own in the United States. Now, people are on their own, but not corporations. You know, they socialize their losses, but they capitalize their wins. That is, they privatize them. You know, when they win, it's private, even though I'm underwriting all of them. Even the NFL, we're underwriting because they are 501c3. You can't make this stuff up. But when people make demands, Hilton Kelly, you know, you're a welfare queen, you're a welfare king, you're trying to steal from the pot. I'm like, wait a minute. We're now moving into the winter season. No one is talking about how people are going to vote. I mean, we're not even a month away from the election. Are they making provisions for that? Oh no, everything has to be done by November 6th. No, it does not. It doesn't have to be done by November 6th. You can stretch this out until the end of the year, the beginning of the year, so that people can get settled. I mean, if you want me to have a voter ID, I don't have none of my voter ID works because I can't inhabit my home. I mean, Hilton Kelly, what are we supposed to do here?
Amen.
Well, I think you hit the nail on the head. I mean, I think it should be extended to give people time to get settled and to get their lives back in order to some degree. Because if they don't, we're going to have thousands of people that don't know where to go. Where are the ballot boxes? Where do we go to vote at this particular time? Many towns and communities are torn apart. So I think that's a great recommendation is to try to have it extended so that everyone could have a fair opportunity at getting to the voting polls.
So, but let's back this up. We live in uncertain times. Well, I mean, we always do. We just don't live that way. Let me start with you, Hilton Kelly. What do we, just practically speaking, you spoke of solar generated radio. Just back up. Tell me what every family, every person, just give me just a thumbnail sketch of what we need to have, because my mother is the ultimate survivalist. She's got water, canned goods, candles, this, that, and the other, everything but a generator. She said, no, 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 no. If people come by, if they don't have lights and I have lights, that's a problem. Your father and I just have to get around with a candle. And that's it. And we said, oh, that's good, Mom. She said, no, 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 no. I taught you how to survive. Now you going, all this is for your daddy. We've done everything we can do. If the grandchildren need something, we're going to help them.
Absolutely.
But you know better.
Yeah.
Help me. What do we need to have? I mean, just what should we have on hand, and where do you store it?
Lord of mercy.
Well, I mean, when you think about natural disasters, as I said on your last show, I was involved very heavily in 1989 during the Loma Prieta earthquake in Oakland, California, when the Cypress Structure Freeway collapsed on top of the bottom level and gas lines had broke. Electricity was out for weeks. I've been through Hurricane Harvey. I've been through Hurricane Rita. I've been through Hurricane Gustav. You name it, I've been through it. And what I've learned to do is stay prepared at all times. I don't care if it's winter, spring, fall, or summer. I stay prepared. And how do I stay prepared? Number one, the cupboards always have non-perishable items.
What are non-perishable items?
Non-perishable items like canned beans, canned chili, things that won't go bad if it's sitting on the shelf. Okay. It has a extended shelf life, so to speak. It's good to have that, because that kind of food may not be the healthiest, but it is the best food you can have when you have nothing else to eat. It's survival food. That's how I look at it. Also, you want to definitely keep water on hand. I mean, you can survive longer without food than you can without water. So always have water on board. If you could get like 5 or 6 cases, this is why these things sort of run out whenever there's a natural disaster. You go to the store, if you go a week too late, everything's gone already. Toilet tissue and napkins and all these things are gone, because many people have babies. They have to keep them clean. So, and what
about baby wipes? And they have wipes for people who can't take a bath because of health issues. Should you?
Right. I would definitely recommend baby wipes. I would definitely recommend that. And there are also amenities that you can use to help clean people, like people that have been in convalescent homes. They use certain ointments and stuff to clean people because they can't put them in the tubs. So I would research that so that I could help keep my babies clean. I could help keep my elderly parents or grandparents who I may have with me clean. As a matter of fact, we had an 81-year-old man. Well, no, he was 91, Mr. Archie Levine. He's gone now. He passed away in 2008, but we took him with us when we evacuated twice for the hurricanes. This is my wife's grandfather. But he raised us, so it's like a father. And we would not leave him behind, but he had some issues that we had to attend to, but yet it could be tough if you're not prepared. But yet when it comes to keeping warm, many homes, you may have lost the roof. This is why you're going to need, water resistant material that you can get under, plastics or whatever. But there are certain sleeping bags that you can buy that are water resistant. And you can sleep in those, until you have better quarters in which you can go to get comfort and to get warm. And if you have relatives, be sure to let them know exactly where you're at. Share your information. Always keep your cell phone on charge. You need to have these things to communicate, and always keep your paperwork in plastic bags up high. Like if you're at home and it's hurricane season coming, now that we've gone through it, you know what to have ready to go, because when you get your paperwork in order and it's time to get in line to prove to FEMA that you own your home, even though your home may be totally gone, and this is where my home was, you're going to need to prove that. You're going to need that paperwork. That paperwork is critically important I've seen people get turned away because they didn't have the deed to their home. Now, many people have deeds, but yet it's with your city officials.
Yeah.
So you need to get a copy of that and keep that in a safe place, a dry place, and put all your important paperwork in a nice plastic bag. Keep it on the shelf, and when it's time to move, you can just grab it and go. But yet, when it comes to losing your electricity, losing your communication, that's why it's good to look into solar-powered radios, solar-powered chargers. They have machines out there now that where you could charge the charger for your phones or your electronic devices, such as your iPads, such as your phones and your computers. And it holds a large amount of energy. I have one of those as well. So you got to stay prepared. Communication is key to survival. You need to know what's going on. Even if you just have a shortwave radio, you need to be able to know what's going on and who is where. Because I know one thing for sure, the media is going to talk about where people are, where's the most devastation, and who have boots on the ground. So these are the kind of things we got to keep on hand when you're living in hurricane-prone areas, or hurricane or earthquake-prone areas like in California. I mean, we all have some natural disaster, no matter where you go in the U.S., that we have to contend with. California is wildfires, earthquakes. In the Midwest, we have Tornado Alley, where tornadoes just come through every 2 months and just wipe everything out. On the East Coast, we got snowstorms, we got blizzards, and now we're starting to get tornadoes. You remember Hurricane, I think it was Katie, that made its way all the way up the eastern seaboard into New York and flooded the subways. It was unbelievable. So we're living in times now to where we are definitely experiencing climate change. We're definitely experiencing something that, many of the activists have been telling us about. We are living it now. There are roads that were once passable, but now they're gone. And nowhere is that more clear than in North Carolina right now, and also here in the city of Port Arthur. So we got to be prepared. Emergency equipment, communications, things to keep you warm, and also if you have non-perishable items, keep those pantries stocked up, particularly during hurricane seasons.
The sardines, canned fish, things like that. But also, what about your generators? I heard Governor DeSantis this morning, he had his press conference. He said, people, remember, do not bring your generators indoors. Can you speak?
That's exactly right. I mean, here at my house, I know everybody's trying to go all electric, but here we have a gas stove. I mean, I grew up with a gas stove. When all electricity was out here, we had that cold snap in 2021 here in the city of Port Arthur, where we got snow for like 2 days, which is unheard of. I mean, we had to take the snow from outside. We put it in 5-gallon buckets, let it melt just to flush the toilets. And then I got a better idea, and I filled up the bathtub with snow so we could always dip in there to utilize it to flush whenever we needed to. But then when it comes to electricity, we have solar panel flashlights, and we have a battery recharger system that we keep charged at all times. It could charge up your radio. It could charge up all your electronic devices that you need to communicate. So these kind of things you have to have on hand. And when it comes to keeping warm, this is my main reason for keeping a gas stove. We thought about going all electric a while back, but during the cold snap in 2021, my wife and I both were so glad that we didn't. It's good to have a stove, but yet I also have a generator. But if you have a generator, you got to remember, you cannot run that generator in the house. You must leave it outside. The carbon monoxide that it's going to create, because remember, your generator is running on gasoline, and that gasoline is going to have some emissions coming from it, and it's called carbon monoxide. And if you run it in your home, your house is filling up with carbon monoxide. And most of the time, what happened, you feel sleepy, you go to sleep, and you don't wake up.
Oh yeah.
There are about 4 or 5 people here in the city of Port Arthur that perished, and 2 of them were very young people. They didn't know. They put the generator, the generator in the room with them while it was running, and they was trying to keep warm, and they died. We got to get the word out there on how best practices on how to survive during natural disasters without putting yourself or your family in harm's way. Absolutely. Education is key.
Wow.
Minister Gatewood?
Yeah, I do want to say this. and Brother Hilton Kelly. Again, I'm glad to meet you. Glad to hear you respond and give out this list. Also came to my mind, there are people who sometimes think that they can bring the grill inside and
Oh,
fire coals and everything and light up the fire coals in their house, and that also produces carbon monoxide as well. So
right.
they need to understand to keep that out. I know you look at that fire and think about warmth, but we really have to be careful. But I do want to say this. I would like to
The
speak.
thing is, before
Yeah.
you speak to that, we
Mhm.
don't know these things.
Mm-hmm.
And no one ever talks about them. And you don't even know whom to call
Right.
when your back is against the wall. Because now they're throwing out the Red Cross. I'm like, oh, okay, I don't know who to call. I don't know what the procedure is.
Right.
And that's part of the problem too. And people, this is a lot of information to take in. But I want everyone to please take that in just today. Get some Ziploc bags, and if you have your birth certificate, your social security card,
Be mercy.
and some bills, put
Mhm.
them in there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, just deeds, whatever you have that makes you official, that lets people know that you actually are alive.
Absolutely.
You gotta have it. You gotta have it because they sure what because they don't know you, and if they do know you, they'll tell you they don't know you.
Absolutely.
I remember doing Hurricane Katrina in New Orleans, and people were trying to get out of harm's way, out of the water, and they tried to cross this bridge over into the next city. And the other folks on the other end that did not look like us, they had shotguns,
So
assault
my father
weapons.
was leading the march.
That's
Reverend
right.
Jackson was leading the march, and these people had guns pointed at them
Pointed.
and told them to get back across the bridge. What was so horrible about New Orleans was that because I came back and my father was like shell shocked
Mm,
because the water was rushing through the streets and bodies were rushing
that's right.
with the current of the water. He had been in Venezuela as the storm was approaching. President Chavez, who was alive at the time, said, Reverend, this is going to be bad. We can pull together about several marine hospitals and get them there. We shared this story yesterday. And President Bush said, no, thank you.
Mm,
Wow.
He said, wait, no, we're going to get them from Saudi Arabia. Huh?
mm,
All of these people you remember Hurricane Katrina, people were just lying in the streets, dead, flies. I remember Anderson Cooper was talking to the then senator from Louisiana, and she said, things are moving along. Then he said, wait. He turned that camera. He said, this woman's been here for days. She's dead. You cannot be serious, because his family's from Mississippi. His daddy's from Mississippi. So he said, I've got family down here. This is not right. And it seems like we have not gotten any better. While the climate issue has gotten worse.
Right.
And the economy doesn't support us the way that it did, even then.
yeah.
Absolutely. I want to just speak to the larger entities because to whom much is given, much is required. We have a lot of people with large platforms, and I don't see them when to help to be proactive and also to help and respond when these tragedies occur. Like, for example, now we live in the United States of America, which is divided. We have ministers who do not have ministries and missionaries with no mission. We have civil rights organizations who become more uncivil and not right. We have people who are just supposedly wearing these brands and sitting around waiting on grant money, when in fact they need to get out from behind the desk, use whatever platform God has given you, and put soldiers on the ground. I just have to say it. We have the NAACP who's constantly suspended. We're getting complaints all across the country where people are being suspended without due process. Those soldiers should be on the ground, recruiting members, helping the sick, helping the poor, helping to mobilize. But we're having all these different entities who are not doing what they were called to do. So I would like to say to them, these larger entities, whether the United States of America government, who continuously fail poor and oppressed people and allow the rich to continue to go doing the crimes while black people are doing the time, whether it's the church itself that once built communities, served as that village or the anchor in the village where it took the whole village, the whole village is still necessary to raise children. So it's like there's been a breakdown of all of our major entities.
Yeah.
And Reverend Jackson knows this well because at the time he was running for president, and during the time I was a young man, but that was the proudest period of my life when I heard a black man on TV just speaking to the issues of the poor and the oppressed and giving data and numbers. It was just an amazing time, and could use portrait. And that inspired me to do poetry. In fact, oftentimes I'm doing poetry when I'm talking. Like we want reparations for the nation's violations against several black generations. We were tricked by legislation like Emancipation Proclamation with no compensation. I mean, I had the inspiration of people that could communicate in various ways to people who may not listen to the traditional sermons and the traditional lectures. But we have to be versatile in communicating to a new generation, and I just don't see it, Sister Santita.
But what we have to do is get involved in our organizations, because NAACP, I think they mean well, but they're different than, say, SCLC was, Rainbow Push, and other organizations. Those organizations are more grassroots. They are and what we have to do, because I know Attorney Derek Johnson, he's a good man, but they have a process in place, and sometimes we have become everybody, including the church, has become corporatized.
Absolutely.
We think that the corporatization of us is going to save us. No, it's not. I mean, that's nice. I mean, I think that has its place.
Right.
But the fact is, you still need. I saw someone who was out in the parking lot of a church with a grill making some food.
Mm-hmm.
Now, most of us, when we want to open a restaurant, and I mean black people, I mean, we were brought to this country to work. How we got painted as lazy people, I'll never know, because you can't
built the whole country. My God.
Now, built the whole country, and slaves can't be lazy. There you go.
Right.
It wasn't for free, without pay. The thing is, we've always been creative.
Right.
Now is not the time for you to give me some song and dance about anything. What we need right now, if you have some food in your freezer, which is about to go bad anyway, cook it. And anybody who wants something, let them come by. What they say, whosoever will, let them come. And maybe God is moving us in that direction now.
Lord of mercy.
Because we've gotten so selfish. And so now, I remember, don't you remember when you used to get a bucket of chicken?
Yeah.
Now you get an individual meal. When you say, I'm going here, well, no, I want a 3-piece. No, I want a 2. I want 4 pieces. I want 4 pieces and add the wing to it. There was a time when everybody got just enough.
Right.
They got you sat around the table. That's right. Yeah. Everybody pitched in, and whoever couldn't pitch in, that's all right. You gonna eat. We're gonna get a bucket, and we have some buckets of side dishes, and everybody's gonna eat. And maybe we're being pushed back into that. I don't know what God is doing, but I know that God is doing something.
Yeah,
and I know that God is pushing us to move. Because Jesus was not killed because Jesus was tossing flowers. Jesus was killed because Jesus was a community organizer.
Come on now.
Who was charged by the state with stirring up the people.
Right.
He said, no, stop playing. Now, you know what? You all put me in a trick bag. I'm going to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, but, I'm going to give to God what's God's. And since this is God's earth, we're going to work this thing out.
Absolutely.
Okay. And so I think we have to get involved. You have to get in the NAACP. You have to get in the National Action.
Absolutely.
You have to get in the Urban League.
Come on now.
And you have to get in all of them and push them to do for you what you need them to do. Because these organizations, we wouldn't have Brown v. Board of Education without the NAACP.
Absolutely.
So that at our churches,
I joined at age 10, so I know.
Well, yeah, it's still the greatest organizing mechanism.
Yeah, exactly.
But you got to challenge, and I think Joel Osteen gives wonderful messages.
Come on now.
But when there's a flood, I should be able to go in your church and sleep.
Exactly.
That's what I'm saying. These larger entities.
And I say that with all these churches, I should be able to do that.
Absolutely.
But wait, but then I need you to go in and help the church because the lights are not on because somebody downtown is being nice. The lights have to be paid for.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, so it's going to require all of us to mature spiritually.
Right.
So we can demand of these institutions. Number one, you have to be involved in them, and then you have to demand of them
inside
that they serve you. I mean, even if you're an outsider, you have enough respect and love to push, because we're not pushing. Because even as you brought up the scripture from the prophet Isaiah,
mm-hmm.
he was challenging the government.
Absolutely.
We don't do that. You don't even know who represents you.
Come on now.
No, I mean, I'm just saying that's not gonna work. And this ought to be an issue. I think that Governor DeSantis should have answered the vice president's call. Shame on him for that. He said she had never called me before. Okay, I got that. You need to answer a call now. She outranks you, my friend.
Exactly.
And if she is running for office, which she is, maybe this is the time for you to squeeze her. That's what politics is. Because these billions of dollars that they say FEMA's sitting on top of,
exactly,
put them on top. Don't let them. Don't sit on them. Put them. Because I don't understand. Because they're calling everybody a conspiracist and Hilton Kelly. Yeah, I'm not a conspiracist. I'm hearing the stories. People are saying, I need help, and I'm not getting the help that I need. And it's reached a critical point because you heard the president and the vice president and Secretary Mayorkas and others. They had that. They came before the nation yesterday. They said, there's a lot of misinformation out here. I'm like, no, there isn't. No, there isn't misinformation.
Yeah, they said that over and over again on the news yesterday.
Well, how did you think? What did you think? Because you do this all the time. And if I were living I'm living in Chicago. If I had a disaster, you'd be the first person I'd call.
Yeah, it's really scary. It's really scary to hear our federal government come out and claim that everything that we're hearing, basically, if they don't put it out, is a conspiracy theory. When we know nothing can be further from the truth. There's a lot of information that has been shared with us over the years that came out to be true years later, after they unsealed the documents that have been sealed for years. Now, 10 years later, we can unseal the documents after certain leaders have passed on and whatnot. And then you find out, it was not a conspiracy theory. This was real. Mm-hmm. And it's happening to us all over again. We have to do our research. We have to get with the people that do this, that study this. Most of your professionals that are in the federal government, they are contractors of the federal government. The federal government does not make anything. They do not build anything. They partner with others and they contract work out to build whatever it is they need, to bring them whatever information they need. All of your scientists are really not a part of the government, but they're contracted to give advice and information. And so if we're not going to listen to our scientists, if we're not going to believe our professionals, well, then the talking heads that are standing at the podium, they're not telling the truth.
Right.
If the person who works in this business is telling you, hey, the sea is rising, and it's obvious, we got roads we have lost all along the coastline. Mm-hmm. The temperature is dropping. This is what's going on. We have to do something to reduce the greenhouse gases. And what did Trump do? He pulled out of the Paris Agreement.
What did that do?
Global.
When he pulled out of the Paris Agreement, what did that do?
Basically, what it did, it kind of took the strength out of the movement to get everybody on board with reducing their carbon emissions that are coming from refineries, chemical plants, chemical incineration facilities, petroleum coke facilities. All of these facilities, if you connect them together globally, and China is a big emitter of carbon monoxide and greenhouse gases. This is why a lot of our companies choose to do business in China, because the regulations that they're lacking to help reduce the carbon footprint and the kind of greenhouse gases that are going up into our environment and blocking out the heat in that the sun kind of heats our earth up with. When this heat tries to escape, it can't escape quick enough because of all of the particulate matter and the greenhouse gases that are lighting just above our planet. So the heat get locks in, and this is how the planet is warming up. But there
Hilton
was a
Kelly,
time to where we didn't have as much greenhouse gases in our environment, but now it's steady increasing.
but Hilton Kelly, unfortunately, and this is where you come in, and you too, Minister Gatewood. This is a conversation that should not be relegated to the wealthy and to the white side of town.
Mm-hmm.
I said both and. Because when you go to these events, and given the space in which you function as a Goldman Prize winner, that's the Nobel in your space.
Mm-hmm.
It's wealthy and it's overwhelmingly white.
Right.
And we're the ones, Black and brown people, particularly Black people,
Yeah.
and poor white people in Appalachia. And I mean, these are poor folks of every color are sitting on top of mineral rich areas that are heavily polluted.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we should be the natural environmentalists, and we are not.
Right.
How do we shift this conversation? Because look, everything's shifting on us right now.
Right.
I mean, because now I believe there's a new Florida that these people are seeing this morning, and North Carolina, and Georgia. I mean, it just keeps on going. And I know that I hope another hurricane's not coming, but I'm sure it is. And if it's not a hurricane, it'll be a tornado. I mean, how do we shift the conversation?
But I do want to say, Sister Jackson, especially as you talk about how we have mineral-rich land, oftentimes that we're not even aware of, that we're standing on, and a lot of times we see people's land being taken in these various strategies.
Oh no, that's conspiracy theory. That's what they said this morning, and they said it yesterday. What is that a conspiracy theory? Are people not having their land taken? Are people having their land taken from them?
They often say conspiracy theory when we start talking about our truths. And then when we talk about how we're being oppressed, they say, well, that's a conspiracy. But the conspiracy theory is wrongfully applied when people are actually losing their land and these types of things.
How are people, I only have about 7 or 8 minutes left. How are people losing their land?
Yeah, well, like, for example, we mentioned it earlier. They're going to have people, even FEMA now going to come around and ask people, do you want to relocate? And sometimes if they don't have that legal assistance and people who are standing there, that community, that village that can make sure that when you say relocate, you don't mean taking my land and then I have a little trailer somewhere and my land is taken now. Those are examples. Of course, we had highways coming down in Durham that went right through the Black Wall Street and took that. You know, they're just different ways.
No. Slow down.
Violence.
Because when you get, hold on, wait. I didn't say hold on. I said hold on. Because people have to sign papers before they get this money.
Yeah.
And I heard something yesterday when people said, because I was called on the carpet about some of my assertions because people thought I was being a conspiracist. I said, I'm doing the reading and I'm listening to folks talking. And I know that when they ask you if you're willing to relocate, you didn't say that in exchange for my relocation, you were going to give me X amount of acres. Because I know my 40 acres and a mule, my ancestors never got.
Never got it.
Never got ours either.
No, I said our. When I said mine, I mean ours. We're all Black people here. We did not. Well, we're supposed to get. So I know and before me, Indigenous people had their land stolen from them, and no treaty has been fulfilled for them.
Correct.
Now, if you're not having the land stolen, they steal your mineral rights. It was a time to where if you struck oil on your property, that oil was yours. Then they came up with this thing, well, you only own the topsoil. You do not own the mineral rights to that land. And then they have slant drilling. They could be a mile down the road and send these tubes right under your property and suck out that pocket of oil or natural gas or whatever it may be.
See, what made America unique was that we're the only major industrialized nation where you could own your land. See, the largest landowner on earth was Queen Elizabeth. Now it's her son, King Charles. Not the firm, not the crown. She. That's why you have all these people around them, because they own. You can own in London. You can own your house, but you can't own the land.
Mm-hmm.
And that means the land, that means the coastline, and that means the water. Okay? That's land ownership. That's why the American dream is to own your own house. Because if you own your home, that means you own the land. That's been part of the deal, and they have been repealing that since the late 1800s here. We need to, Hilton Kelly's on to something. We need to be clear on that.
Absolutely.
Because that is what has made America unique. And now that's being taken from us. And that is no conspiracy, everybody. We need to know that.
Absolutely.
Because if America is going to be America for everybody, you got to have the information. And that's why you have to demand that you have a public school system where your children are taught. And where if you need to go back to school at 70 years old, you can go back to school. The money is here. We are not involved enough in our own government and governance. That is why these people take our money and spend it the way we don't really want them to. This is just, come on. And this is when you see it, when your back is up against the wall. So you know what? I've got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to give this to you, 2 minutes to you, Minister Curtis Gatewood and Hilton Kelly. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes because I told you I came on here warm this morning. Well, because I'm seeing what's happening to people.
Yeah.
And that hurts me. Because they're being told that they're not seeing what they're looking at. And thank God for the work that you do, both of you find and do every day, because we don't know what to do. Because this is a day when you're not waking up in your bed, you're waking up in a car if you're lucky. Maybe. I don't know. People are waking up on top of their houses if they went to bed at all.
Lord of mercy. Yeah. Well,
2 minutes for you.
I would like to start by saying we need to utilize the platforms that God has given us. I think churches should start allowing time for experts on whether it be on the environment, storms, or whatever. Every platform that we have, with organization, church, where people gather, our people from the village, educate. I like to bring the scriptures to the streets where we can make it apply, where we can apply it to the streets. When Jesus said he came to give sight to the blind, he wasn't just talking about physical blindness. He was talking about information. Because, see, we are being blinded by lies, misinformation, propaganda, false narratives, so on and so forth. But we need experts, people that God has blessed with information, knowledge, to be before audiences, each platform, church, organizations, so on and so forth. Ministers have to have ministry. Missionaries have to have a mission. All this work has to come together. So by the time the storm comes, we are better prepared. We know it's coming. It's going to come next year and the year after. We should be now proactively organizing to make sure our people are safe.
Hilton Kelly, a couple of minutes for you.
Yes. Well, I'd like to say this. Unity. Unity is key. Unity is power. Now, one of the things I've done about 4 years ago was put together a team of young men here in the city of Port Arthur. It's called Helping Hands. I call the organization Helping Hands. When Hurricane Laura was earmarked to come to the Port Arthur area, we were geared. We were ready to go with chainsaws. We were ready to go with generators. I had about 9 generators that my organization, my nonprofit, Cedar Inc., had purchased to give out. So when the hurricane missed us and kept going into Lake Charles, we loaded up in our trucks. We had about 3-4 trucks. We had chainsaws in it. We had food. We had water. And all this stuff, you can see it up on YouTube. I like to document the work that we do, hoping to inspire others. But it's time that we start thinking about a barter system, because when the system breaks down and you don't have a police force, or you don't have community unity anymore due to all of the different activities you had in your community once before, but now it's chaos because a hurricane have torn it up or has been flooded for so long and no help is there. We got to learn to work together. We got to learn to help each other. We got to learn to share with what we have so people can share what you may need with you. Mm-hmm. So let's get back to the basics. When we go into survival mode, remember Miss Clara down the road. Don't forget her. There's nobody watching her. She's home all alone. She's disconnected from her niece or daughter who live maybe 200-300 miles away. So we got to check on one another again. And we got to help ourselves to survive, because it may come a time to where when we look around, our government's not coming. There's no knight in shining armor. The only knight in shining armor is God above and the people standing around you. So what are we going to do? If you know how to farm, let's figure out how to grow this food. Let's get that going. Do you know how to cleanse water to make it drinkable again? Let's use our knowledge to build our communities and make them stronger while we survive together. And I think we need to do a mock setup of that in each community that's hurricane prone. We got to learn to come together and start working together and making these situations an exercise in case we have to go through it, because we know hurricanes are coming again and again. In the Midwest, tornadoes are coming. But look at all the tornadoes came at the end of Milton.
Oh my gosh!
There was about 100 or something hurricanes that touched down. It's ridiculous. It's unheard of.
Yeah.
And conspiracy theories, no, something is going on out there. I don't know exactly what yet, but I do know climate change has a lot to do with it. And I do know that it's time for us to figure it out so that we can save ourselves if our leaders won't.
That's right. I mean, and and it might be the wise old woman or wise old man in the neighborhood. That's their gift.
Yeah.
Someone who can lift your spirit, heal your broken heart. Everybody has something that we all need. Everybody has something. Just very quickly, I remember I did a summer at Carnegie Mellon in an engineering program. I was a rising senior in high school. They took a few of us high schoolers in to go to college for the summer with college students. It was great. And my mother wanted me to be a doctor. And so I came away like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. I hated science, but I did well in it. And my father came up to Pittsburgh to bring me home. And he said, baby, science is wonderful. He said, but you will always need the humanities. Human beings matter.
Lord have mercy.
Said, so don't ever. He said, baby, I hear you. Because I was only 16 or 17. And he said, baby, I hear you. And this is great. Said, but I want you to remember that. People matter. We all matter, and we all have something. Someone who just knows how to make those biscuits.
That's right.
Like Shorty Bub, who lived down the street from my grandmama and great grandmother in Greenville, South Carolina. Shorty Bub, who was about 4'9", and he had that cigar hanging out of his mouth. I miss him today. And he would sit in the kitchen and he'd make biscuits by the trays full. And if you fell in the yard, he'd run over and give you a hug and a kiss.
Lord of mercy.
Those things,
rebuild the village. We must rebuild the village.
That's the way we did it years ago.
And that has to matter to us, everybody.
Yes, it have to. I know this old guy in our community. I was born in 1960, and around 1965, time still was kind of tough for us. Systemic racism was alive and well.
I was born in the Colored Women's Hospital in Greensboro. Come on.
There you go. And we still had to live in our own community, basically.
Yeah,
exactly.
But there was this one old man, we called him Pop Jerome. Pop Jerome used to go to Sunbeam Bread Company and get all the day-old bread and the honey buns, cinnamon rolls, and he'll bring it to his garage and he'll set it up real nice. And he'll go door to door, knocking, telling everybody to come on and eat. Come on and get you something. And he didn't charge anybody anything. He also did other things. I don't want to be too graphic, but he also had his own animals that he would slaughter to feed. And then he'd go out to the farm area, out of the outskirts of Port Arthur, and he'll bring back all this meat and go door to door. He was a true giver. And this is the kind of cloth that I come from. And when I went to Lake Charles, Louisiana with those 9 generators, I'm trying to give them to people. I see them sitting on the porches. I know that it's hot outside, but they're sitting out there because they don't have no electricity, trying to keep cool. I'm trying to give them away. They couldn't believe it. I said, well, no, sir. I said, I have a nonprofit organization. We want you to have this generator. So you're just giving it away. See, we're very distrusting of each other now. We have to lose that and learn to trust each other again and learn to work together. Our young people have to learn to respect their elders and the wisdom that we have again. They've gotten so far away, but they'll see it again when those hard times come. We got to help them to understand now. And this is how I work with my grandkids, and this is how I work with my kids. We got to learn to work together, or else we would perish together. Because you have knowledge that I don't have. Santita, you have knowledge that I don't have. I have knowledge that you don't have. So why don't we share what we know and let's build this village again? And let's pass it to our young people.
I'm going to have to
Yeah.
Let's go here. But
Yeah.
everybody, that is really the key. It is rebuilding the village very quickly. How can people get in touch with you, Minister Gatewood, very quickly?
919-939-6311.
One more time.
919-939-6311. And then we need to go back to the real scripture. We preach too much. The greatest law is to love God with all your heart, mind, and soul, and love your neighbor as yourself. We are not a hood. We are a neighborhood.
That's
Yes.
right. But love yourself. Learn how to do that.
Amen.
That's the hard part. Hilton Kelly, how
Yeah.
can we get in touch with you very quickly?
I'd like to encourage folks to check out my website. It's www.CEDAInc. That's C as in Charlie, I as in India, D as in Delta, A as in Alpha, CEDAInc.org. And you'll find a wealth of information there and some knowledge that you may be able to use for yourself and your community.
We're going to have you back because we need to train each other in that. And then, just get into community, everybody. Because that really is the key. Red, yellow, black, brown, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. We're all God's children, and we are one family.
Amen.
And God's going to keep socking it to us, whether this stuff is man-made or God sent.
Amen.
God can hit a straight lick with a crooked stick. We are going to learn to love and be in community with each other because we are one family. That's what's going to happen. I love you, everybody. I'll see you in the next hour. We're going to talk about all this money that we're spending in these wars. What those monies could be spent on here in the United States.
God of mercy.
Back with more of the Santita Jackson Show. But everybody, if you all want to hear it, I'm going to be recording again in another hour. All right. See you tomorrow.
God bless you.